Hey everyone, it's Alex Miller at Capnion here. In a second, I'm going to talk about Apple, Microsoft, and OpenAI's board. But before I get to that, I'm going to articulate what I think is an interesting, kind of weird general principle of trying to do something with AI in a large organization, which is that you're very likely to run into stakeholder revolts that are a little weirder and more severe than you might be used to for a similar context. And these are very diverse, and they don't directly have a lot to do with AI a lot of the time. And I think this is really the subtle reason why this area is actually very challenging. A lot of the technical details have been worked out, and in the process created a lot of human people process etc problems, or just general weirdness and anxiety problems that are gonna rankle somebody you need to play along to get your project off the ground. So I'm going to give what I think is a really great example from the news. OpenAI, you've probably heard of them. They make ChatGPT. If you've been watching my videos, they have a very unusual corporate governance situation. They're a not for profit with a for profit subsidiary. This is because they used to be a not for profit research lab, and now they're seeing more and more a for profit business, maybe trying to turn into something else and do an IPO. So that's pretty interesting. This creates a lot of weird situations. And I'm kind of a corporate governance nerd. This is the weirdest corporate governance I've seen in my life, and maybe just the easiest storytelling for people on LinkedIn why you should care. So let me go to this article you might see around today. Microsoft and Apple both have significant relationships with OpenAI. OpenAI is the leader in LLM right now. You can look at Google, who maybe should be the leader, and they're struggling. So a lot of people want to make sure they've got the cool LLM action. OpenAI's got a lot of really important and exciting partnerships with big tech. Normally, in this kind of situation, if OpenAI was a Delaware C Corp, as these kinds of companies usually are, OpenAI and Microsoft would own stock. They would have a whole lot of precedent about what kind of rights to complain and influence policy of the company should my stock give me. They get to vote on things. It's a pretty weird situation because it's not like that. And so Apple and Microsoft have invested in various explicit and implicit ways. They should get a say in what goes on. Well, how exactly should that happen in this funny governance context? They were going to get what I see as maybe kind of the rather pathetic party favor of non-voting seats on the board. So they're essentially legally entitled to sit there at the meetings and observe what's going on, but they don't necessarily get to vote on anything or have a say on anything. And I think sometimes people impress very strongly on this type of board observer that they should not even speak. These plans have been scrapped. Apple and Microsoft are no longer going to do these board seats. Why? Well, all of the big tech companies are under a lot of regulatory scrutiny right now from an antitrust direction. So not that many companies that make smartphones, not that many companies that make operating systems. And then also, tactically, complaints orbit around, well, these companies use their power in Avenue A to muscle into Avenue B. There's no real competition. And this conversation's been going on since Microsoft got into antitrust trouble in the 90s. OpenAI is real hot, maybe going to IPO. I don't want to quite endorse this, but certainly it's not totally unreasonable to look at them like they're on their way to being a new big tech company, the big tech company of the future whose semi-monopoly is around AI. Might be true, might be false. If you told me the regulator was worried about it, that wouldn't surprise me. So it's rather unseemly and a little bit odd that this company is already super in bed with all these semi-monopolistic, entrenched industry players who, at one point were trying to build these things themselves. It might be a little silly because these are non-voting board seats, but it's certainly not great optics that, oh, actually, like, we don't compete, we're all on each other's boards and we all work together. So they scrapped these plans and they're going to do some kind of informal stakeholder meetings. This is all interesting in and of itself, but I think it's a great example of this thing I mentioned where stakeholder revolts of various forms are many and arcane in the AI space. So both Microsoft and Apple saw a lot that they liked in OpenAI, wanted to have a relationship with them. Okay, the stakeholder revolt is beginning. OpenAI is this weirdo for-profit, not-for-profit. It's not what we normally do when we put money in a company. Okay, we put all this money in. Do we get any kind of say in what is going on? Okay, so the governance is weird, so we can't do what we normally do to get a say. Okay, we're going to do this observer thing. Oh, well, now, a whole different part of our company, the part of the company that worries about antitrust optics, is in revolt now because it's unseemly that now everybody's board is just people from other people's board. That looks a little bit like an anti-competitive scam. And just in general, if you're somebody at Apple or Microsoft and you wanted to cook LLM into something, these corporate governance concerns, antitrust concerns, are not probably what you're used to worrying about as a product person or an engineering person. These are other parts of the company that find your plan for getting access to this technology problematic in some way that's really about business or people or regulation or PR optics. And this is a super duper common story in AI where the technology is there. You don't want to build it from scratch. Getting in business with the kind of people that can provide you the technology in a straightforward way has caused somebody in your organization to revolt in a weird direction. And I hear this story exactly from lots and lots of people of we're trying to do XYZ beyond the AI wave, and so in my office is freaking out about XYZ, and XYZ is very often of this flavor of it's really not about AI, it's about some arcane business thing, and the AI world is pretty weird and nasty. Everybody's incorporated in a weird way. OpenAI is really, honestly, just a bizarre story of corporate misgovernance in significant ways. Lots of people are this public benefit corp, Anthropic, for example, which at the very least that's cleaner, but untested, not a lot of exciting lawsuits. It's just something that was invented in the past 20 years. So there's just a lot of unknown, and unknown kind of sucks in business. AI is really about solving these weird boundary concerns as much as it is about technology, especially if you're not a tech first company and you're just trying to build something. So I would keep watching this stuff. It's kind of a fountain of at least interesting. It could be really impactful. OpenAI's already exploded, almost exploded once, for example, and these things keep coming up. It's worth presuming they're going to come up again.